On today's Valentine's Day edition, I'm going to be making my whole food plant-based vegan chocolate sweet potato tart. I hope you can stick around and see exactly how it's made. Valentine's Day and welcome back to the kitchen. I am Plant-Based Gabriel. If this is your first time here, I'd like to welcome you to the kitchen where you'll find all of my recipes are completely vegan, whole food plant-based, and always oil-free. If you haven't checked it out already, I've got a website where I put all of my free recipes, plantbasedgabriel.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. But today we're going to be making a very special Valentine's Day sweet potato chocolate tart, and we're just going to be using a few ingredients for that. So we're going to be making a sweet chocolate oat crust, and for that we're just going to use 1 cup of quick cooking oats. We have 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder and 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. And then for a filling, we're going to be using 2 cups of sweet potato puree. Now that is around 3 small sweet potatoes, 1.5 very large sweet potatoes, and 2 medium-sized sweet potatoes, but 2 cups, so we make it nice and easy for everyone. Now I've cooked those in my Instant Pot for 25 minutes, and that is how I get, or 30 minutes, excuse me, that's how I get perfectly cooked sweet potatoes, very sweet, very delicious. We're also going to be using 1 cup of a plant-based milk. Any plant-based milk will work. I'm using a cup of my pecan milk. We've got 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. We've got 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then for our thickening agent, we're going to be using 1 teaspoon of agar powder. Now this is a seaweed-based gelatin, a vegan gelatin alternative. You can find it at most health food stores. You can find it on Amazon, online. If you cannot find agar, or you really want to make this dish and you don't have it on you right now, you can always use cornstarch and use about 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons. And it's not going to reach the exact same consistency, but it'll be very close and it will be well worth your time making it. But we're going to be doing all of this in the food processor. So to get started, I'm going to move these ingredients over a little bit. I'm going to bring the food processor right here and we're going to get started on the tart. Right, we've brought over our food processor. I'm just going to open that up. And the first thing that we're going to do is going to make our crust. And so I've got my 1 cup of quick cooking oats. We have 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder and then 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. Now we are probably going to be blending or processing this for roughly around, it shouldn't take too long, shouldn't take more than really 30 seconds, but you might have to pulse, kind of scrape down the sides a little bit and pulse a little bit more. So we'll get to pulsing that and processing it. Great. Shouldn't take too long. Like I said, it's going to be a pretty quick blitz of that. Now, I do have the dish we are going to be preparing this in. I think this is a 24 centimeter, just a glass baking dish. So we'll just set this right here. Now, we are going to be doing the filling in the food processor as well. So I'm going to try to get as much, and you can always just rinse it off if you'd like. But I'm going to try to get as much as the oats off as we can because I don't want it to be gritty. So we're just going to add this into our baking dish and form it towards the bottom. It does not have to go all the way up the sides. If you'd prefer to have it go all the way up the sides, you can most certainly go ahead and even double this batch. But for our purposes and how I like it, I just want a little bit of a lip, and then we'll go there. All right. So now we've got this here, and all we're going to do is press it down, get a nice layer towards the bottom. All right. So now we've got a great base layer for our tart. Next, let's do the filling. I'm going to set this right here. We've made a little bit of a mess, but that's all right. Let's move that to the side. And we've got our food processor again. And if you feel like you need to, you can always go and rinse that out. But for me, it'll be fine. So we've got our sweet potato puree. Add that in. Now, I do get questions sometimes, so I will just answer that now. I have peeled the sweet potatoes, so do not put in sweet potatoes with skins. And if you feel like you're losing the health benefit, you can always go ahead and eat the sweet potato skins. You can roast them off in the oven for a few minutes, make them crispy, or you can feed them to the dogs. They always love them. Next, we've got our maple syrup. And this is going to be a little bit more liquid than some other of my, say, my chocolate sweet potato pie dish, because we are going to be using that agar powder to thicken it up after we put it on the stovetop. We've got our 1 cup of plant-based milk, our cocoa powder, vanilla extract, and then our agar powder. Now let's blitz this. We're going to blend this. I really want this to come together, so it's probably going to be around 45 seconds to a minute till we get it to where it's really come together into a nice, it's going to be kind of liquid, but a nice homogenized mixture. All right, so right about 60 seconds for that to have blended nicely. We'll remove the lid. I'll put this over here so we can see a good moussey type consistency. I'm going to take this lid out. Now we are going to transfer this to the stovetop, and we are going to get this to a simmer. So it'll be roughly around 5 to 8 minutes. Once it gets to a simmer, we're going to leave that on, or we're going to turn the stovetop off. We're going to let that pot sit there for another 5 minutes. So about 5 minutes to get to a simmer, and then 5 minutes while we turn that off, and then it should be ready to pour over our crust, and then we'll be ready for the next step. So I'm going to just transfer this in here. A good consistency. We're going to want to keep the temperature nice and low just due to the thickness of this. It's not like we're going to be cooking a liquid. So that looks good. Now we're going to leave this open, uncovered. I'm going to turn this on to a low to medium setting. And once that starts to simmer, or once we see that start to boil or bubble up, then we're going to turn that heat off, let it sit for 5 more minutes, and then we'll be back to pour it over our crust. So I'm going to get the kitchen cleaned up a little bit while that's going, and I'll see you in just a second. Okay, our 5 minutes on the stovetop with a low heat, and once it hit that boil, or it started to heat up a good amount, then we turn that heat off, we let it sit on the stovetop. I kept stirring. You'll notice the mixture actually slackens up a little bit, so we've got a little bit more of a liquid consistency, which is perfect for now that we're going to put it in or over our crust. So I've got it here. Now it is going to be kind of hot, but just make sure your glass dish hasn't been in the fridge before this, which it probably shouldn't have been anyways. So let's just pour that over top. Make sure we get it all in there. Get it here. Now this, I've just got to mention this because I know for myself, not that you shouldn't, maybe necessarily try the mixture just to make sure it doesn't need to be a little bit sweeter, or if there's anything else you want to add, but that is a slippery slope, people, because as soon as you taste that mixture, you're going to want to just put it in a bowl and eat it. So I will say, be careful with that. But we are going to just cover the oats and try to keep it as smooth as possible. Now, how we're going to let this cool is I like to put it in the fridge for around an hour and a half. Now, you can do more. You can put it in the fridge you can make this the night before, actually, and do it that way. You can, so the longer in the fridge, the better is what I'm trying to say. You can speed the process up a bit by putting it in the freezer for around 30 minutes and then taking it to the fridge. That way you're just going to cool the mixture down and get it to solidify a little bit quicker. But 30 or an hour and a half in the fridge as a rule of thumb, kind of the minimum. And then when we pull it out, it should be ready to slice up and be perfect for your Valentine's Day dinner, or really anytime you're wanting a tasty whole food plant-based dessert. I'm gonna get this in the fridge. I will see you guys in a few hours, and we're gonna get it sliced up and give it a try. It has been right around an hour and a half. I've got to say, it looks delicious. I hope it tastes as good as it looks, and I think it will. So the first thing we're going to do is, you can really serve it however you like. I would recommend you serve it cold. You serve it to where it's chilled at least, because that's the way it's going to hold together the best. But I'm just going to take the knife, slice through, get a nice little piece here, not too big because Dr. Miller's not home yet, so I want to save a good amount for her. And then we're just going to slide right under it. I'll move this out of the way, and we will set that right there. As you can tell, it formed perfectly. You can see I was able to slice right through it. Got a perfect slice there. But that's the agar powder that really does a good job of keeping it all together. But you can see from the sides, we've got a good consistency there. It really turns out great. Now I'm going to go ahead and give it a try and let you know how I think of it. I'm going to chop that right there. It would be recommended to use, say, a spoon or a knife to eat this, but I'm just going to use my finger. That is phenomenal. You've got that nice little bite or chewiness that the crust gives it, that oat crust gives it, and then it's just a silky smooth, yet it holds together perfectly. A delicious tart. Now, you can go ahead, I'd recommend trying it like this. If you feel like you need to have it a little bit sweeter, add a little bit more maple syrup. If you feel like it's a little too sweet, you can always take a little bit of the maple syrup away. The same goes with chocolate. You can always add some more chocolate or cocoa powder. So I really hope you guys enjoyed today's recipe. If you did, make sure you go ahead and hit the like and thumbs up button, and make sure you go ahead and share this video, because if you share it, then that means your family and friends get a chance to see how easy it is to eat a whole food plant-based diet. And then also, if you haven't already, checked out plantbasedgabriel.com. This recipe, my past and future recipes, can all be found there at plantbasedgabriel.com. I am Plant-Based Gabriel here with my chocolate sweet potato tart, hoping that you have a wonderful Valentine's Day, and I will see you very, very soon. And I'm just going to dig on in on this.